Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as you can see here that we are going to talk about the judicial activism. Okay. So we will look at what is the meaning of judicial activism and what is the significance of. So that basically we had arranged these topics for the discussion under this particular series. Like what do you mean by the judicial activism? Introduction. Thereafter, what is the okay, let me make it again so that you could understand it better. Introduction to the judicial activism, meaning of judicial activism, thereafter the judicial review versus the judicial activism, thereafter the justification of judicial activism, thereafter the activators of the judicial activism, apprehensions of the judicial activism, and judicial activism versus the judicial restraint. Okay. So like these are the topics that we are going to see under this particular series, or you can say under this particular heading, not a series. All right. And we will try to formulate a comprehensive outcome or conclusion of the judicial activism. So let's first start with the introduction part. So basically, if we talk about the concept of judicial activism, so that is originated and developed in the USA, United States of America. And basically, when I was telling you about the Constitution, I had told you one thing, that if we talk about the borrowed items, we know that in the Constitution we had borrowed various provisions from the outer country's Constitution, and one of the provision was the concept of judiciary. So the judiciary is basically brought from the USA, United States of America. But here, however, we had borrowed the judiciary from USA. Let me write down again. However, we had borrowed the judiciary from USA, but there are some modifications that we have made here. Like first, if we talk about the judicial interference. So in comparison with the America, in India, judicial interference is moderate. It's not so extreme as it is in a USA. Second thing here, which we could say, is the judiciary system. Like if we talk about USA, we know the judiciary system, there is the two types of, like first type is the federal court, second type is the provincial courts. And they both implement the different laws. Federal courts, central laws, provincial courts, state laws. But when we talk about India, then we know in India we have the integrated judiciary, which means that the court system in India implements both central laws as well as state laws. Okay, that is the thing. So basically here I have told you about the borrowing of the judiciary. So similarly, the judicial activism in India was basically introduced from the USA. Okay, but here we are talking about the introduction of it. So basically we could say that it was originated, developed in USA, and basically in 1947 the term was coined first by the Arthur Schlesinger Jr., an American historian and the educator. Please mind my pronunciation. I'm not so good to pronounce the German words here. All right. In India, the doctrine of judicial activism was basically introduced in mid 1970s. Like here you can say in USA it was came into the picture in 1947 by the first coining of the term, but in India it was basically introduced during the 1970s. Okay, and basically there was a person, Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer, Justice P. N. Bhagwati, Justice O. Chinnappa Reddy, and Justice D.A. Desai. These four were the persons who laid down the foundation of judicial activism in the country. Okay, so please remember the names. First is Justice Iyer. Second one was third. Justice Iyer, Justice Bhagwati, Justice Reddy, then Justice Desai. It's obvious that we could not, you can say, keep the full name in our minds for the longer time. So that's why I have given you the shortcut. Okay, Justice Iyer, Justice Bhagwati, Justice Reddy, and Justice Desai. These four were the one who basically laid the foundation of judicial activism in the country in which we are living in, that we call India or Bharat or Hindustan. Okay, so remember this thing. Now, after taking the basic introduction of the judicial activism, like history, who was the first person who coined the term, who brought the judicial activism in India, where it was born, originated, which year, and in which year it was introduced in India. Okay, now we are going to see the meaning of judicial activism. Like, what is the meaning of judicial activism? But before this, let us talk about what is the meaning of activism. Then only we will talk about the judicial activism. Like, if we talk about the activism, so activism is basically the practice or act of taking initiatives about certain causes by, or you can say about certain causes belong to all fields or some specific fields. It is a practice or act of taking initiatives about certain causes belong to all fields or some specific fields. Okay, it is a activism. Like, you are seeing something happening before your eyes. There are chances that might be you are connected to it, might be you are not connected to it, but you are seeing that this particular thing having some significance in the society, and if you think that the thing are not so right and you want to check the validity, then you will take the initiative regarding the thing, challenge the thing, and that is known as the activism. And basically, when we talk about the field of judiciary, like here I have told you, it may be regarding all fields or some specific fields, because we are talking about the judiciary, which signifies the specific fields. That's why we call it as a judicial activism. Got it? So now, after you can say framing the particular thing, now we are going to talk about it in the proper sense. Judicial activism denotes the proactive role played by the judiciary in the protection of the rights of citizen. Proactive roles means taking initiatives and in the promotion of justice in the society. So basically there are two main aims. First is the protection of rights of citizens. Second is the promotion of justice in the society. In other words, implies the assertive role played by the judiciary to force the other two organs of the government, legislature and executive, to discharge their constitutional duties. So basically when we talk about the organs of government, we know that the government having three organs. Basically, these organs are legislative organs, which make the rules and regulations. Executive organs, which implement the rules and regulations. Judiciary organs, which protects the constitutional validity. So here, when we talk about judicial activism, it means that the judicial organs taking the assertive or pre-active roles and forcing the legislative organs and the executive organs to discharge their constitutional duties, because if they are not discharging it, so rights of citizens is basically hampered, or you can say promotion of justice in the society is basically hampered. So there are two root causes. Okay. Judicial activism is also known as the judicial dynamism. It is antithesis of judicial restraint, which means the self-control exercised by the judiciary. Okay, it means that if we talk about the judicial restraint, however, we will talk about it in the later, but if we talk about so far, judicial restraint basically says that judiciary should not participate into the other member, you can say other organs, or you can say should not interfere in the executive and the legislature matters. Whereas the judicial dynamism says that judiciary must be proactive in order to protect the rights of the citizens and promotion of the justice in the society. Judicial activism is defined in the following way. Judicial activism is a way of exercising the judicial power, motivates judges to depart from normally practiced strict adherence to the judicial precedent in favor of progressive and new social policies. It means that the judges should not be the one who is, you can say, confined to his specific role of the judiciary, but he should be the one who will take the adherence and who will take the steps in favor of progressive and the new social policies. And as we have discussed, basically force the other two organs to implement the certain actions so that the promotion could be done in the social manner. Commonly marked by the decision calling for social engineering, occasionally these decisions represent the intrusion in the legislative and the executive matters. Okay. Another point is judicial activism is the practice in the judiciary of protecting or expanding the individual rights through decisions that depart from established precedent or are independent of or in position to suppose the constitution or legislation intent. Okay. The third is the judicial activism can be defined as the process of lawmaking by the judges, means an active interpretation of existing legislation by a judge made with a view to enhance the utility of that legislation for the social betterment. Basically, when we talk about the legislation, it is the totally a power of the legislature that the legislature is required to make the rules and regulations. If we talk about the constitutional rule and the you can say the basic rule of the judiciary, then it is to check the constitutional validity only. But when we talk about judicial activism, then it is far beyond the constitutional validity, but also interference in the process of lawmaking to check the existing legislation validity and always the enhance the utility for the realization of social betterment. Judicial activism different from the judicial pessimism, which means interpretation of existing provisions of law without an attempt to enhance its beneficial aspects. Like if we talk about the judicial review, we know in judicial review, basically the judges only check the lawmaking process and the law provisions, and these must be in matching with the constitutional validity. But when we talk about judicial activism, the role is not only confined to this, but also it provides the power to the judge to attempt to enhance its beneficial aspects of the existing provisions of the law. Okay, so it is one step ahead of it. Thereafter, judicial activism is a philosophy of judicial decision making whereby judges allowed their personal views about public policy among other factors to guide their decisions. Okay, like here they are not only checking the constitutional validity, but they are also the part of judicial decision making, in which they are seeing that whether the bill is for the betterment of people or not. Okay, it means that they are passing their personal view about the public policy and basically guide the decisions of the legislature and executives. Okay, thereafter, judicial activism is a procedure to evolve the new principles, the concept, the maxims, formulae, and relief to do justice or to expand the standing of the litigant and open the door of courts for needy or to maintain legislation affecting the entire society or section of it. Okay. The concept of judicial activism is closely related to the concept of PIL, public interest litigation. About it, I will take the separate lecture in which I will explain you in detail what we mean by the PIL. It is the judicial activism of the Supreme Court, which is the major factor for the rise of PIL. Other words, PIL is an outcome of the judicial activism. In fact, PIL is the most popular form or the manifestation of the judicial activism. Okay. Thereafter, the concept of judicial review and the judicial activism are closely related to each other. Now we are talking about judicial review and the judicial activism. But there is a difference between them, and following points are there to bring out these differences. First is, since about the mid-20th century, a version of judicial review has acquired the nickname of judicial activism. Because we know judicial activism was introduced in the USA in 1947. In mid 1970s, that is brought to India. And that is basically, you can say, extended or evolved form of judicial review. Okay, so that's the thing. Like in the mid 20th century, the concept of judicial review, which we had also brought the USA, okay, acquired the new nickname of judicial activism, especially in the USA. In India, the participant in the debate mix up the judicial activism and the judicial review. Okay, like if we talk about the concept of USA, then there is still a separation. But when we talk about India, then this is a mixing up of both the concept, judicial activism and the judicial review. The former is that form of letter in which judges participate in the lawmaking processes. Therefore, not only they uphold or invalidate law in terms of constitutional provisions, but also exercise their policy preferences in doing so. Like in the judicial review, as I have told you, the judges are only required to check the one single thing which stands out for the constitutional validity. But in the former, in the judicial activism, they are not only looking after the constitutional validity, but they are also participate in lawmaking procedure and also exercise their policy preferences in doing so. Okay, it means that technically they are interfering in the you can say the powers of the legislation. The concept of judicial activism is inherent in the judicial review. As I have told you, it is an extended or evolved form of judicial review. Empowers a court to uphold the constitution and declares a laws and action inconsistent with the constitution as void. Judicial activism is necessary for ensuring the proper discharge of duties by the other organs. Okay. Thereafter, the term judicial activism came into currency sometime in the 20th century to describe the act of judicial legislation. Therefore, judges making positive law. However, there is no standard definition of the judicial activism. Okay, it is just a influx, extended, or evolved form of pre-existed judicial review, in which the judges go forward and now they are also participating in the legislation making process. As a whole, it can be said that judicial activism stresses the importance of judicial review and a powerful judiciary in the protection and promotion of the certain core rights, which means that not only they are limited to check the constitutional validity, but they are also empowered to participate in the process so that they could ensure that the legislation as well as the executive discharging of their powers, their duties for the welfare of the people, for the protection of their rights. The expanded concept of locus standi in the connection with PIL by judicial interpretation from time to time has expanded the jurisdictional limits of the courts exercising the judicial review. Okay, so you can say with the introduction of PIL, the judicial activism has been, you can say, empowered a lot, and basically the jurisdictional limits which provided by the judicial review to the courts has been expanded. Okay, this expanded role has been given the title of judicial activism. Okay, like we could say in the more manner, judicial review, checking of constitutional validity of legislation without participating. Okay, this is the meaning of judicial review. When we talk about judicial activism, then not only confined with checking validity of legislation, but also participating in legislation process. So here, if you compare both the statements, what you will get? It is an expansion of the previous one. Okay, so that's the thing. Judicial activism as regards constitutional cases falls under the rubric of what is commonly called as a judicial review. As I have told you, at the broadcast level or the broadest level, basically, it is an any occasion where a court intervenes and strikes down the piece duly enacted by the legislation, or you can say when the court interferes in the area of the judiciary, area of legislation. According to Dr. V.L. Vadhera, The reasons for judicial activism are as follows. Now we are talking about the justification of the judicial activism. First, there is near collapse of the responsible government when the legislation and executive fail to discharge their respective functions. This results in the erosion of confidence in the constitution and democracy amongst the citizens. Like if the legislature and the executive, the two organs of the government, not able to discharge their duties. So what will happen? That the people will lose their confidence in the constitution and the democracy. That's why it is important to force them to discharge their duties. Thereafter, the citizens of the country look up to the judiciary for the protection of their rights and freedom. This lead to the tremendous pressure on judiciary to step in aid for the suffering masses. As we know, like if something happened to you, okay, and the government is not helping you, what you will do? The first thought comes in your mind is that go to the court. So similar thing is happen here. Like court is the resort of the people and the guardians of the constitution. So that's why it is a pressure on the judiciary that they should step in the process and provide the aid to the suffering masses. Thereafter, judicial enthusiasm, that is the judges likely to participate in the social reforms that take place in the changing times, encourages the public interest litigation and the liberalizes the principle of local standing. Thereafter, the legislative vacuum, that is there may be certain areas which have not been legislated upon. It is therefore upon court to indulge in judicial legislation and to meet the changing social needs. Okay. Thereafter, the Constitution of India has itself adopted the certain provisions which gives the judiciary enough scope to legislate or to play an active role. Similarly, the Subhash Kashyap observed that the certain eventualities may be conceived when the judiciary may have to overstep in some normal jurisdiction and intervene in areas otherwise falling within the domain of legislature and the executive. These are the areas when first the legislature fail to discharge responsibility, then the judiciary will intervene. Second, in case of a hung legislature, when the government provides is weak, insecure and busy only in the struggle for survival to get re-elected and therefore unable to take any decision which displaces any caste, community or other groups, then the judiciary must be intervene. Third step, here we could see those in powers may be afraid of taking honest and hard decisions for fear of losing power, and for that reason may have the public issues referred to court as issues of law in order to mark time and delay decisions or to pass on the odium of the strong decision making to the courts. The fifth is where the legislature and the executive fail to protect the basic rights of the citizen. Okay, it means the legislature is failed in the lawmaking and the executives fail in the implementing to protect the basic right of citizen, like the right to live a decent life. It is also provided under the Article 21, okay, which is the fundamental rights. Thereafter, provided the healthy surroundings, provide honest, efficient and just systems of law and administration. If the legislature and executive, both the important organs fails here, then the ultimately, the third organ, which is the judiciary, this should came into the picture and then ensures discharging of duties or responsibilities by the other two organs. Okay. Thereafter, where the court of law is misused by a strong authoritarian parliamentary party government for ulterior motives, as was sought to be done during the emergency aberration, then basically the court should intervene. And the last is sometimes the court themselves knowingly or unknowingly become victims of all too human weaknesses of craze of populism, publicity, playing to the media and hogging the headlines. If this is happening, that's why we say that judiciary is the guardian and basically the shield for the people against the arbitrary powers of the state. So basically in these areas, the judiciary should come forward and take the action. Okay. So students, basically in this lecture, we have completed till here. In the next lecture, we will continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures whatsoever we have discussed in this lecture and be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say thank you.